lot of the things that are occurring actually can be drawn from biblical readings. Let's just begin how these events began on Thursday, June 12th, when the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, went to the Kotel. For the Prime Minister to go to the Kotel, it's not a frequent occurrence. Besides his commitments, it's a security issue as well to clear the Kotel Plaza. But it happened that on Thursday, June 12th, the President of Argentina, Javier Milei, was visiting Israel and wanted to go to the Kotel. President of Argentina, as you may be aware, is a dear friend of Israel. He loves the Jewish people and has a great connection to Judaism. And obviously, on a visit to Israel, he wanted to go to the Kotel to pray. So perhaps that provided that opportunity for him to go there, where the Prime Minister placed a note in the Kotel, a note that said in Hebrew 5 words: Israel will rise like a lion. Where are these words taken from? They're actually taken from a great biblical prophecy from none other than a non-Jewish prophet that we speak about in the Torah, whose name was Bilam. At that time, there was a King Balak, who saw the power of the Jewish people. He saw they were strong. He saw they were mighty. He thought, let me take a different approach. Let me undermine them. Let me curse them. Nothing's changed in 3,500 years, and that's exactly what our enemies are doing today, undermining Israel and the Jewish people with their words and their lies. Why was this prophet there? Because there has to be a balance in the universe. If there was a Moses, God had to put another prophet that the nations could have. If not, they would say, if you would have given us a Moses, we would have aspired to greatness. He did give them a similar prophet, but this prophet, rather than lifting people up, he pulled them down. God did not allow the prophet to curse the people, but quite the contrary, he ended up blessing them. Viewing the Jewish camp from the hilltop, out of his mouth came some of the most sublime words and poetry that is written in all of the Torah. And he quotes here, "Lo, there is a people that rises like a lioness, leaps up like a lion, and rests not till it's feasted on its prey. They crouch, they lie down like a lion and like a lioness, and who dares then to rouse them?" And the prophet then concludes, "Blessed art thou that bless you, and accursed art they that curse you." The metaphor of the lion, much is written about this, and I only touch upon it extremely briefly. Many interpretations on what he meant. So one interpretation is that the prophet references the fact that Jewish people get up in the morning like a lion to serve God, donning their prayer shawls and their tefillin. Another interpretation is throughout history, many times and most times Jews have been subjected like a crouched lion, dwelling amongst the nations of the world, and only from time to time are they able to raise their heads. But perhaps there's one other interpretation that refers to the end of days by one of our great mystical writers called the Rachmal, who saw within these words a vision that at the end of days, the nations of the world will try one final time to destroy the Jewish people. And at that time, realizing the threat, Judea will leap up like a lion, and it will not rest till it has feasted on his prey. It is words that we have seen fulfilled in our day. We saw then the following day, on Friday, June the 13th, that the war began in an unprecedented strategic strike. Israeli jets flew over and began demolishing Iranian nuclear sites. What do we read on that very day? It talks about when the Jewish camp moved. It said when the ark was to set out, the ark of the covenant led the people, Moses said these words, and these are the words that we read on the day the Israeli jets went into Iran. May your enemies be scattered, and may your foes flee before you. And one of our foremost biblical commentators, Rashi, says, who are your foes? Who are those that hate you? And he quotes, these are those who hate Israel, because whoever hates Israel hates the Almighty. And finally, to conclude, and again, these are verses that were read in the synagogue on that Friday when these events occurred in Iran and the jets flew into Iranian airspace to bomb the nuclear reactors. We read that in times of war, when you are at war in your land against an aggressor who attacks you, you shall sound short blasts on trumpets. So that as they went into war, trumpets were sounded. So with tongue-in-cheek, I dare say we had our own trumpet here, who helped us, none other than Donald Trump. So we see biblical verses being fulfilled. In a final aftermath to the story of the president's visit, he gave him a very special gift. The president of Argentina, he gave Bibi a gift of a painting. Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister, had a very close relationship with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And on one occasion, he gave him a very unusual blessing that he must have the courage and strength to stand up to 119 men or women. And there was an allusion to the 119 of the 120 members of the Knesset, that he gave him a blessing, that he must stand up to them with courage and resolute strength. And I dare say the President, Bibi, had to do this on many occasions before we had come to this final decision. And it was a painting of this blessing that the President of Argentina gave to him at the conclusion of his visit. And there is no doubt in my mind this fortified Bibi Netanyahu's resolve that he must do the right thing, he must send the Israeli jets in, and he must bring finality to this evil regime of Iran. Am Yisrael Chai. John.
Thank you, Rabbi, as usual. Poignant and to the point, and great to hear some of the history and some of the background to what has happened. As most of you would know, if you've been following the WhatsApp messages and whatever, I mean, this plan has been not just 1 year or 2 years in the making, but probably 20 years of preparation. So it's been an amazing, and it's changed the way war happens in the world. Not that any of us want war. Anyway, it's we can talk more about that as we go, and we may have that opportunity for some open mic and questions and answers a bit later, depending on our friend from Canada actually making it at 6 o'clock in the morning and waking up on time. He's about a 24-year-old. So sometimes you just don't know with 24-year-olds if they wake up in the mornings. But on that note, we'll see what happens. It's great to welcome our friend Pam Colbert from CFOIC, who resides in Queensland. Pam's part of our committee, and it's great to see Sarah's here. A few of the others are with us today from the committee that keeps on organising these events, and both our month-to-month Zooms and also our live events, of which I'll share a bit about the recent South Australian event if I have time a bit later. So Pam, welcome to you, and you've organised a friend to join us, Dionne. Wonderful to have you with us. So Pam, over to you to introduce.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Rabbi. we want the war to come to an end, but we're still praying for the hostages. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Dionne Taylor. She is the Global PR Manager and Australian Lead for Israel Is, an advocacy organisation using storytelling to amplify survivor voices and foster global empathy and improve Israel's image in the world. She was integral in the development of the Survive to Tell, Be a Witness VR education tool, which immerses users in the experiences of 5 survivors of the October 7 Nova Festival attack. So under her leadership, the program has reached audiences in 12 countries and 32 delegates, including university campuses worldwide. By combining the VR, survivor testimony and education, Dionne's work helps combat denial and anti-Semitism through empathy and immersive learning. Dionne, I met in Brisbane, and I'm very honoured to know you now. Dionne lives in Sydney. She's married and has 2 daughters. Welcome.
Thank you. That was a lovely intro. Thank you. I think Steve wanted to show a short video which will give some context as to what I'm going to be talking about tonight.
Spend a lot of time on like social media and reading a lot of secondhand sources, hearing directly from people who went through it and being able to see their emotion is so different.
Eye-opening is the wrong word, but incredibly emotional and important.
It's just unimaginable, like trying to believe it, but it's real. These are the videos that like the world should be seeing.
This program has so much potential and has so much power to really motivate people to like do something.
All of us have an obligation to now move forward and share what we have seen.
Thank you, Pam. Shall I just take it away from here? Yeah? Okay, good. Well, thanks everyone for joining tonight, and thank you, Rabbi and Steve and everyone for taking the time. As Pam did mention, we're in really difficult time, and we cannot forget about those 50 hostages that are still in Gaza, dead and alive, that need to come home to Israel. I myself have just spent a month in Israel and managed to, well, I came home luckily 24 hours before everything started, just a week and a half ago, and I had a truly amazing, unforgettable trip. So it all seems very real to all of us, and I'm feeling very, very blessed and with a lot of gratitude at the moment to be home safe with my family. Even though I live in Australia, and Israel is an organisation based in Israel that employ about 25 people, I'm very much an integral part of their team. I wear 2 hats within the organisation. So the one hat is where I originally started, is their global PR manager, where I use my relationships with media to get stories about the work that they do on a global platform. And more recently in Australia, I've been appointed as the Australian lead for the organisation to drive their organisation's awareness in Australia locally. So I'll tell you just a little bit about Israelis and who they are and what they do. So they're a non-profit organization. It was founded 8 years ago. The bread and butter of what they've always done is they run workshops and programs with young Israelis when they've just finished their army service before they go on what they call their big trip. So when soldiers have been in the army for 3 to however many years, and they're still so young, they haven't explored the world, they go and travel. And often this is the first time that a lot of them are faced with really challenging conversations and meet non-Jewish people in the diaspora where they have to defend Israel. So this organization has always run programs and workshops to improve Israel's image by giving them the skills to do so. So that's what they've always done, and that's what they continue to do. October 7 definitely changed things. Not only did half of their workforce go into Miluim, into reserve duty, but some staff members had a personal experience of October 7, and one of them was a man by the name of Nimrod Palmach, who was the CEO at the time, and he defied his commander's orders on October 7 and decided to drive down south just armed with his pistol to do whatever he could to destroy as many terrorists as he could and save as many lives as he could. And all the while that he was in battle, he was holding his pistol with one hand and his iPhone with the other, recording it, thinking no one will believe me if I tell them what I'm seeing today. And so at the end of the day and for a few days afterwards, he had this feeling like, how can I translate what I've experienced so that people would actually believe me, because there was so much denial. And together with the team at Israelis, they decided to combine technology, storytelling, and advocacy, and they created this virtual reality education tool called Survive to Tell. So this is what the VR headset looks like. If anyone isn't familiar with what VR is, it's virtual reality. And when you put the goggles on, you are able to have a fully immersive experience. Where if you turn your head, look up and down, you can see behind you, and it really puts you in the place of what you're experiencing. So often people would use VR headsets for games, but this is used for storytelling. So this VR tells the story of 5 survivors from October 7. And they all have very different stories. You've got Milette, who was at the Nova Festival, who ran for 2 hours and hid in bushes and was eventually saved with 2% left on her phone battery, and the man who saved her went back into the festival and actually was killed trying to save more people. There's Mazal, who's a single parent, went with her friends. Her 2 best friends were killed beside her. She protected her head when she was hit by a rifle in the back of her head, which saved her. And her legs were bound up to be taken as a hostage, but she instinctively held her breath and faked her own death, and she was left there. That's Mazal. There's Remo, who's a Muslim Bedouin police officer, and he was working at the Nova Festival in security, and he saved over 200 lives. There's Nimrod, who is the dad who just took it upon himself to drive south and save lives, and took a 20-second goodbye video to send to his kids before he went into battle, certain that he would not make it out alive, but he would do anything for Israel. And then there's Ophir Engel, who is a returned hostage who spent 54 days in captivity. He was taken from the Sharabi home. If you know of Yossi Sharabi, who's one of the 50 hostages who is still in captivity, his body is being held there. And Ophir was just 17 when he was taken. So he tells his story and recounts it. So the experience for the user is really profound. They're given the opportunity to put on the goggles and cycle through footage, just like 5 minutes at a time, where the survivors retell their story and their account of what happened on October 7. And really it puts you in the place of where it happens. Now, I can speak from experience, and I'm not sure if any of you or many of you have been to Israel since October 7 and toured the destroyed kibbutzim and the Nova Festival site and met with people. But in my personal experience, you can never be, when you're in the place in Israel, you're always being guided by someone who's sharing their personal story, and you actually can't be sadder than them, and it's very hard to be vulnerable when you're in a group. So you kind of hold it all in, and you feel the emotions later. When you wear the VR goggles, you have this feeling that you are the only person in the room, and you really can absorb this full immersive personal experience. And it really is quite transformative in changing people's empathy towards Israel, changing their general emotion and their awareness. You won't believe how many people we've put these goggles on who didn't even know that October 7 happened, and are blown away. So it is very, very powerful. Just to give you a little bit of history and some experience of what we've done with Survive to Tell, and these are all projects I've been involved with. I launched it in May with them in 2024, so only 6 months after October 7 we were able to create this product. We launched it in London, and since then we've toured it to more than 15 countries in the world and close to 100 university campuses. In Australia, we've been to ANU, Uni in Canberra, we've been to University of Sydney, UTS, Monash, Melbourne, and then we've done a huge roadshow across the US, and we're about to start another one in September. I personally have also taken it to communities in Mexico City and LA. And we've met with Jewish and non-Jewish communities. And it's actually really, really important to get these goggles on the eyes of non-Jewish communities of all ages, 16 plus, because it really, as I said, is a powerful tool. We do this through a variety of ways, so through workshops and delegations. So where I met with Pam, as she mentioned, in Queensland in April, I brought a delegation of minority voices from Israel. So I had Druze, I had Christian, I had Jewish, come to all over Australia. I brought just one speaker to Queensland because we couldn't be everywhere at the same time, unfortunately. That's Audelia, who is Christian and of German descent. And she was born in Israel. Her grandparents actually moved to Israel after the Holocaust, following heeding the message of comfort my people, and they moved to north of Israel, and they opened an old age home for Holocaust survivors, which her father was only 2 at the time, and her mother came as a volunteer from Germany to work at the old age home, and they met and they fell in love, and they've had 5 children, and they've all been in the army. They're all combat soldiers. And Audelia shared the story that her brother Uriah was unfortunately killed by Hamas in December 23. And she's just a beautiful girl. Anyway, Pam's nodding because it really touched her, and anyone else who's on this call who met her, it's no doubt it was an absolute privilege. So how we kind of connect with people from all over the world is we bring powerful stories. Sometimes they're Jewish, sometimes they're not Jewish, but they're all bound by the same value system and belief. They're Zionists, and we have access to a huge variety of voices. So one other thing that Israelis have done just recently, and I was very privileged to be part of the official opening just a few weeks ago in Israel, is they've opened a visitor center in Sderot. So again, for anyone who's going to Israel who is going to bear witness and go down south, a lot of the kibbutzim are closed, and it's just the Nova site that they can go to. But now there's the visitor center, which has the VR where you can watch those stories, but there's also lots of audio recordings of last conversations that people have had with their families as they've been hiding in safe rooms or in bomb shelters. If you know the story of Anir Shapira, he was a hero that was in what they call the death shelter along the highway outside the Nova Festival. He was a attendee at the Nova Festival, He was in the same bomb shelter that Hersh Goldberg, Poland was in, and he bravely threw out 7 grenades, and the 8th grenade killed him. But we've got all of the audio recordings between him and his family and other people in the kibbutzim, and interactive TV screens where you can cycle through minute by minute what happened in the kibbutzim. It's a really powerful educational experience as a museum, and it's the only one that is dedicated to October 7. Some have called it the Yad Vashem of October 7. So sad that the one has to exist in this time, but it's really incredible. And if and when you go to Israel, please let me know. I'd love to coordinate for you to go there and experience it. But from a tourism, dark tourism perspective, it certainly fills that opportunity. The VR product Survive to Tell is more than just October 7, and as I mentioned, it's always evolving. So we've actually completed a 6th video, which is a testimony from the Druze families and parents whose children were killed in Majdal Shams in the Hezbollah rocket. And it's incredibly powerful, and we actually have mobilized really quickly and already sent in 3D videographers into the devastated communities throughout Israel who have suffered from the recent Iranian missile attack to capture those stories. So they will also be on the headset. And in the next few months, as I mentioned, we run global delegations. Israelis will be sending people to Mexico City, US, Austria, and London, where they'll connect with other communities and provide the VR. We want to just amplify these stories from Israel in a variety of ways. And we do this in the diaspora, not only with the VR, but as I mentioned, through workshops. So there's a few workshops that they offer that are relevant to people in the diaspora. There's one in particular called Defending Israel Online, which is really, really powerful. When participants join the workshop, which can be webinars or in person, we give them the skills to help differentiate between misinformation online, reality, and also give them the skills to empower them to do their own advocacy. We often find people are doom scrolling and get caught in the wrong algorithm. So we want to teach them how to determine right from wrong. And also we've evolved that workshop into incorporating the Iranian content that we already have been seeing over the last few weeks. Other workshops include like a story worth telling, which is suitable for Jewish and non-Jewish people. What it does is it helps them craft their own narrative and their connection to Israel, so that when Israel is brought up in the conversation, they have the skills to personalize their own story to their connection and use that in a way to educate other people. And we do this by going into high schools, youth movement, church groups, and really connect with a wide variety of audiences, Jewish and non-Jewish. And I just want to say that if there's anyone who's listening, or if you know of organizations or institutions or groups that you think could benefit from either the VR experience or any of those workshops, please feel free to connect with me. I'd love to try and work with you to bring it possible. So, oh, thank you. Steve's just shared my email. I'll put my phone number in there as well. So I am friendly and accommodating, and we can come to, I heard that there's people from all over Australia, so we can definitely travel anywhere. The Survive to Tell workshop called Defending Israel Online is also available to do online. Yes, we can do that both online, so, or in person. But if we can get a group together for online, then for sure we can do that, reach more people. That's about it from me. And I just want to say thank you again for coming together and for all of your love and care for Israel. And someone I just spoke to in Israel, I said, I'm so sorry that this is your reality. And she said, we are all in this together. And those words couldn't be truer.
Well, I'm sure John is about to speak, but I'd like to say thank you, Dionne.
Thank you.
And I would like to personally encourage all of us to take up one of these workshops to Defending Israel. Over to you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Dionne. Look, really important work that you're doing. And just by way of introduction, a bit of the story of where we're going at the moment. I was privileged to be in South Australia for the launch of Israel Allies Foundation as its chairperson last week, and we were invited to Yad Vashem, South Australia, which is being completely renovated as a museum, a learning centre, discussion centre, etc. And I said to the young lady and to the chairman, have you got any VR stuff? He said, no, we haven't. And I said, well, I think we have somebody we can connect you to.
John, you can do a great introduction then. Thank you.
So I've said that we will connect you together. So that would be a wonderful thing. And it's a wonderful thing that you're available to speak into some of our. I'd really love you to come to some of our churches in Melbourne at some stage, and we'll see what we can do to put that together so that our Christian community has more of an understanding of what is actually going on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, really wonderful. So we may have a chance for Q&A. Just I'll wait a few minutes before we see where we're going tonight. I just want to share a bit of the story of SCAFI and how it started back in 2017-18 with what was first the event we did was Nations Blessing Israel. And it was instigated by a friend, Peter Kentley, who's no longer with us, with the rabbi at the Central Shul in Caulfield. And we met together. I think there are 100 or so of us from Christians and Jewish world, met together and talked about the nation of Israel and how we come together as brothers and sisters. From there, we went into meetings on a semi-regular basis, mainly at the shul, but sometimes at a Christian church where we would share journeys and stories of Israel, Australia. Beersheba was very much a part of that story, the light horse, etc., until about 2018-19, when, of course, we were hit with the thing we didn't want to have. So we're all locked up for a few years down here in Victoria. I don't know where each of you were, but in Victoria it wasn't very pleasant. And so I moved to Tasmania around about that time, and we discussed with the rabbi how we would continue, and that started the monthly meetings of Southern Cross Alliance for Israel, which we have continued since 2018 onwards on a monthly basis with friends from our Jewish Israeli friends to Australian friends, and of course what many of us are doing to support and walk with our family, which I now call our family. So from that, it was a loose group of people that came together from different Christian organisations like ICEJ, Christians for Israel, Bridges for Peace, Ebenezer, many other Christian groups, PAM, CFIOC, and a number of Jewish groups led by the rabbi. And we've, since we've been unlocked in 2023, we have travelled Australia with our ambassador, Amir Mammon, to all of the nation's capitals, and he's spoken at both Christian centres and Jewish synagogues, and we've come together. But it was, again, just a loose group of people. But what we realised, particularly in the last 18 months since October, is that we needed to form some sort of legal operation where we could work with leaders in both parliamentarian and business and Christian and Jewish leaders, bringing them together to help them understand what was really going on in the nation of Israel and around the world and the Middle East. And to that effect, we relaunched in the Parliament House in October last year, 24. We relaunched the Israel Allies Caucus, which is parliamentary members that support Israel as a nation. At that stage, we had up to 38 individual parliamentarians, upper and lower house on the federal parliament, that agreed to be a part of this. And it was more of a body that was recognised amongst the other 60 Israel Allies caucuses around the world. So there are now 60 odd Allies caucuses in all the major nations across the Western world that recognise the rights of Israel and its rights as a people and a nation. And so out of that, we actually formed the Israel Allies Foundation, whose purpose was to support those parliamentarians, both federally and statewide. So we've now opened it up to state parliamentarians to join the caucus. And our role as the foundation is to help educate those parliamentarians as to the truth that is happening, as against what they read on the Herald Sun or wherever they read their newspapers or listen to Channel 9. So we really are about educating them, number one, and through them to their electorates. So supporting them into their electoral regions and educating the region. So that's one of its major purposes. The other purpose is perhaps where I relate with you, Dionne, is educating our kids, particularly our high school level, which have been infiltrated by what I would call the left wing perspective, and even our primary school. So the Allies Foundation is raising money to support what you're doing, Dionne, and what others are doing in both primary and secondary schools throughout the nation. And hopefully we may even get to a few universities. Let's cross our fingers and
amazing. Sounds incredible. Sounds incredible.
So I'm going to put up tonight, and we now actually have a foundation with a BSB and a bank account. And if anybody would like to give something towards that, that would be great. It's in the process of getting DGR recognition, tax deductibility, but that will probably be another 6 to 8 weeks down the process of that happening. And we met on Friday with the rabbi and the committee of the foundation to put things into action for that to happen. And so there will be DGR recognition, and even those who give now may be able to claim in tax if they want to before the 30th of June. So I just wanted to put that in tonight. It was how would I say, the launch in South Australia took place last week with the support of ICEJ and particularly Sarah and Mark. And Sarah's on with us tonight as we were meant to host Amir Mammon into the parliamentary friends of the Parliament in South Australia, and then have a cocktail party on the following night for business leaders, Christian leaders and Jewish leaders. Well, as you probably know, well, if you did not know, last Monday night we had a phone call or a text message from Amir saying, sorry, the federal police have closed the embassy completely, taken us out. We're not allowed to travel anywhere. And in fact, all the Western world embassies, Canada, UK, New Zealand, France, Germany, were all closed down last Monday night for fear of threat of what was happening. But we managed to say to Amir, well, if you can't make it physically and we can't do what we plan to do, you may be able to Zoom in. And he did on the Thursday night to 50 plus leaders of politicians, Christian, Jewish leaders in South Australia. And we plan to do that in every capital city over the next 12 months. And indeed, with conversation last week with Amir, when the new parliament sits on July, I think the 23rd or 26th, the actual parliament comes back in to action. Amir has invited the 30 plus registered members of the Israel Allies Caucus under Andrew Wallace to come to the embassy and have a cocktail or two so that we can start that process in July of helping them understand the truth of what is happening. And I'll just say privately, you know, as I met with one of the head, the whip of South Australia, and started sharing some of the stories and some of the things that were happening. And he's a lovely, wonderful man. And yet after an hour and a quarter, he said, I've never heard these stories before, John. We only get what the media gives us. So we need to get into our politicians' ears and to our influencers' ears to share the truth. So that's the purpose of the foundation. So I'm just part of the group with the rabbi, part with ICJ, with C4I, Bridges, and many other Christians, and even our membership will grow through the rabbinical circles and, you know, even groups like AJA and ICJ and many of the other Jewish groups. So that's where we're up to, just to give everybody an update as to where we're at. So I'm just looking to see if our friend Nohad has joined us. Stephen, have you seen if Nohad is here?
I have not seen Nohad join. I've been looking
okay.
out.
Well,
No.
in preparation, just in case he didn't appear, I have a recording that he was with us a couple of months ago, which will tell you a bit of his story. So I'm going to play part of that to you. Nohad is part of the Druze committee, Druze congregation that live just outside Jerusalem. Young man, joined the IDF and tossed in at the deep end when Hamas invaded. So his story from a young man on the ground really struck home with me as to what was really happening. And so I'm just going to go in and share some of that story, and then we'll cut it off and we'll open up for some questions, if that's okay with everybody. So let me just go into share and share sound and share. And here's Nohad.
You can talk a lot. I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen. I'm here to listen.
All right.
First of all, I would like to say thank you everyone here for what you're doing. Not only for the Jewish state or Israel, but for humanity itself. It's something that's inspirational, something that's emotional, heartwarming. I'm sure that Eitan here mentioned few things, and there's a lot of things to learn and to hear from you. That it's amazing. You know, me, when I came here to Canada, I was in shock of good will of people to help, the will of people to help, and to stand for Israel, and they're far away, and it's something that's really heartwarming, and I'm really thankful for all of you guys for doing that. So without further ado, my name is Nohad Mansour. I'm 22 years old. I'm a Druze, Arab, Israeli, ex-IDF soldier who fought and got injured now in Gaza and Khan Yunis. My story starts from when I was a child, when I grew up in a Druze house with Druze values and Israeli values. Me living in Osafia. Osafia is a Druze village on top of the Carmel Mountain near Haifa. My parents decided that I should go and I should study in a Jewish school in Haifa, so that's what I did. I studied there like all of my siblings, and I got to experience the Israeli culture. I got to experience the Israeli values, and me being not Jewish and mostly Jewish society, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot, you know. I hear this a lot in Canada about the Jewish state is mostly Jewish, but no, if a person would like to go there and sees what's happening actually there, it's absolutely eye-opening, and it was incredible experience for me. Not only that I studied with the Jewish people, I also studied the Old Testament, and I learned from that a lot. And after that, I went to join the paratroopers 101 unit, just like my brother, just like my cousins. So was clear to me that I'm gonna do that, and I joined the paratroopers. It was a hard training. We finished the training, and at first we were in the Gaza border, and then after that we had different missions in different areas. So I knew the Gaza border really good. I knew I was in Nahal Oz. Nahal Oz is, I'm sure you know, near Kfar Gaza, near on the northern border of Gaza. So a few events happened in my mandatory service, and I got injured a few times in combat zones, and I lost my hearing, a little bit of my hearing. And after I finished the army, they decided that I get an exemption out of the reserve draft. I didn't have to go to the reserve draft. Shortly, a month and a half after that, I got discharged from the mandatory service in August 2023. Month and a half after that, after I said to myself, that's it, I'm finished with the army. Now I can start and to live a normal life, go to university, study something. Maybe one day I will open my own business. That was my mindset. Now back to reality, back to normal life. Month and a half after that, I wake up to see horrible pictures. I saw pictures that were in videos which were unimaginable, you know. I saw that it was heartbroken because I saw civilians that didn't do anything, elderly civilians, photos of them, and it was horrible, you know. And seeing all of these videos, and I can't believe, I'm thinking that I'm living type of dream. And at the same time, I'm trying to talk to my friend. His name is Neta Epstein. Neta Epstein used to live in Kfar Gaza, on the border. And at around 7:30, I sent him a message. He was with me in my mandatory service in my team, and Neta's not answering. Few hours or hour and 2 hours after that, they told us that Neta used to play soccer or football. and he was a goalkeeper, and he was the nicest guy ever. Pure soul. Neta, as the pure soul, as the goalkeeper, as the hero, jumped on a grenade to save his girlfriend, and she was the only survivor from the whole street. Hearing that, reality hits. I'm sure every person with a little bit of emotion, a little bit of heart, feels that he has to do something. And I'm sitting there, and my brother gets called to the reserve draft, and I'm sitting there, and I have to do something. I have to do something. These are not the values that I grew up on. These are not in those situations. I'm supposed to do something. That's the Israeli way. That's the Israeli values and culture. So I took myself and I went to volunteer to rejoin back, and I get there to the base as soon as possible. And I remember going to try to get a weapon, and they wouldn't let me take a weapon because I have an exemption, and they needed to verify that I can go back to the army. So after 15 hours of me going back and forth to the commander, he finally gave me a weapon and gave me a vest, which wasn't bulletproof, a weapon that we didn't use, never used the weapon. And we got on the bus and we drove to Kfar Gaza. From all of the places, Kfar Gaza, you know, I remember getting off the bus, and the images, suddenly you see them in reality. I remember seeing cars on fire, cars with bullet holes, cars with blood inside. You're there, and you're in your shift, and 200 meters to your right, 200 meters to your left, you hear that there are terrorists there, and they're now having a fight. They're having a fight, and I'm sitting, and the Apache, the helicopter, is above us, and the tanks, and shooting, and a lot of explosives. And you need to be ready for now, maybe something is gonna come. And all of this is from one hand. The other hand, the thought that now I can go inside of a house in Far Gaza, and maybe I would see my friend's Neta's dead body on the ground. And it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain the feeling, but in that moment, not only that it didn't, you know, it's one of the moments either you continue or you stop and cry. We knew that we didn't have an option here. We had to do something, and now we know why we are there. Now we know why we are protecting, and now we know we have a reason. We saw the evilness of this group which called Hamas, what did to our people. And we were there for around 2 days, and after that we went to training month and a half after. So month and a half after that, they call us and they tell us that we're going. We got bulletproof vests, and now we're going to the Gaza border. We're going towards Gaza, and we know that we're gonna get into Gaza. It's a matter of time. We didn't know when. And I remember they told us to call your parents and tell them to come and to say. And we're having a family day. We said, are we going into Gaza? And they didn't tell us if we're going or not. And so I called my dad, and I'm sure if anyone here knows the famous Druze food, my dad came with the Druze food, and he brought me the famous food. And we're sitting and we're talking and we're laughing, and after an hour or so, he gets in his car and he leaves, And the day after that, they tell us that we're going into Gaza. They take our phones and they tell us that we're going into Gaza. So it's something that, again, you're not prepared to hear something like this. You don't know what's going to happen to you, but you're with your friends, you know. They were saying in Israel, the friends from the army, the friends from home, the people that you live with, the friends from the army, that the people that you fight and maybe die with. So these are special people to me that we were together, and they really gave me a lot of strength, and it's a brotherhood, and we're preparing ourselves. Everyone's putting as much weight, as much stuff as possible in the bags, ammunition, food, water, clothes, everything, and everyone's cleaning his gun the last second, you know, and you don't know what's gonna happen now if you're gonna go into Gaza. So I remember putting on the bag, and you know, because if we don't get something, we don't put something in our bag, we won't have it. So you're trying to put as much stuff as possible, and everyone from the unit, from the team, is putting as much stuff as possible. I remember putting on the bag and going on the scale, and I weigh around 80 kilos, and I go and I'm 145. I'm putting the bag and I'm falling backwards. But you know, if I won't carry it, my friend would. If he won't carry it, we won't have it. And we start after 2 days of preparing. You barely sleep, barely eat, barely drink. We go on the bus, we start driving towards the border. We start walking, 5 a.m. We get to our first house at around 2, 3, something like that. The first house that we got into, it was blown by an airstrike. The second house, we took a drone, we flew the drone in, and we had signs that the house has booby trapping, which means that they have bombs inside. They're waiting for us to go inside and probably explode the house on us or something. So the commanders sit together and we decide to go to a third house. The third house that we go to, it was around 4:30, and me and my friend Nitai, we were the first two people that to guard. And I remember we're standing on a balcony that was ground level, and the sun starts to go down. And when the sun starts to go down, it becomes pitch black. You don't see anything. There is no light. There was no lights in Gaza. There was no lights on the streets. And again, with tanks and with a lot of noise, a lot of explosiveness, a team next to us is getting attacked and stuff like that, and you need to see what's happening. And I'm standing with Nitai and our guard, and if we look to the front, and we see a big field a little bit to the right, a big villa to the right, more bushes and stuff we couldn't see behind them. So you don't really see what's happening. And I remember the sun went down, complete darkness, and because I have my hearing problem, so I was with earplugs. I took the earplugs off and I put them over my ears, and the chain of shift came. The person that needs to replace us, and his name is the two people were supposed to come. Only one came. We waited for the second one to come. The person that came, his name is Hassan. He's also Druze. And me, Hassan, and Nitai, I'm on the left-hand side. Hassan is here, and Nitai is on the right. We're standing in our shift. We're telling Hassan what's happening in the area, and out of nowhere, shots fired. I feel the bullet pass right next to my leg and hits my friend Hassan. The other bullet scrapes my friend's Nitai's neck. Hassan falls on the ground, starts crawling towards the door. Nitai just falls on the ground, and I'm standing alone outside. I take the gun and I start shooting while I'm taking Nitai backwards, but I don't know where they shot us from. And I take him backwards, and I get towards the door, and Nitai gets stuck. And I'm trying to pull him in, and I can't. And I'm trying, and I'm shooting, and all of that's happening probably in 10 seconds, and I feel like it's 10 hours, and I'm shooting, and what's going through my mind is now I'm gonna die, now I'm gonna get shot. Eventually, we put Hassan and I put Nitai inside of the house. I tell him, are you okay? Are you okay? And he's, do you have something? Do you have something? And I see only scrape on his neck. So I tell the team, we got attacked. And we have one injured person in our unit, shoot to suspicious places. I didn't see where they shot us from. And someone from the other side of the house, he mishears the command, and he hears that there is a terrorist inside of the house. So he was covering outwards, now he's covering inwards. He sees someone running at him. He shoots him. IDF, don't shoot, don't shoot. So we had friendly fire. And now because I shot without my earplugs, I can't hear anything. I can't see anything, complete darkness. And I can only hear Hassan screaming, the guy that got shot in the leg. I can only hear him screaming. So I go to him and I grab him from his vest and I tell him, God is with you, God is with you. And when I said the word God, it's unbelievable. Imagine a guy that's getting shot in the leg and from screaming to silent. Just by saying the word God, it was something that's really stuck with me until this day. And he grabs me from my neck and he tells me that he thought that I was killed. So we breathe, and they tell us after a few minutes that we need to take Hassan outside of the house. We take Hassan outside of the house, and the friendly fire that we had, it was a big miracle. The bullet hit the 2 magazines on the vest and then hit the ceramic plating, and the guy was saved. That was our first day in Gaza. Incredible. That is a good introduction, let's say. And I remember 4 days after that, a lot of stuff happening. I'm just jumping a little bit in the story. A lot of tunnels we found, a lot of tunnels in houses, a lot of stuff that I didn't really expect. And I remember the doctor tells me that now I need to go outside of Gaza to do hearing check because of my hearing. I couldn't hear with my ears properly. So the commander comes and tells me that the Hummer is gonna pick you up at 10. And at 10 p.m., complete darkness, I go on the Hummer and I look to the left and I feel like something's gonna happen. Take myself out of it. Second time, I feel something's gonna happen. The third time, I look to the left, I feel bullets over my head. I jumped out of the Hummer. I start screaming, they're shooting at us. They're shooting at us. Cover now, cover now. And I look back to my friends and no one's doing anything. And I tell them, what's wrong with you? They're shooting at us. Do something, do something. And I look back one more time. No one's doing anything. What's the matter with you? What's wrong with you? I know how it feels. I know how it feels. And out of nowhere, my commander comes, grabs my shoulder, and he tells me that no one's shooting at me. At that moment, I got confused. And, I thought that my life is, I survived, but I didn't really survive. Now I'm gonna be messed up for most of my life, all of my life. And I'm still 21. I didn't do anything in my life. So a lot of feeling, a lot of things going on. And the Hummer tells me that he's gonna go, and I go on the Hummer, and I take one of the phones out of the commanders, and I call my lovely dad. And he's like, I said, Dad, and he's like, hey, what's up? Nohad? I said, yes, Nohad. He told me, how's Gaza? And I told him, it's boring. And we laughed about it a little bit. I got to the border, I got my phone, and he called me. And he told me, I just talked to Hassan, the guy that got shot in the leg. And he told me what happened. Talk now. So I explained to him a little bit about what happened. And I go to the border and I go to the psychologist, the hardest 2 days of my life. I go back to Gaza after that, choosing to go back to Gaza because in my mind that it was a decision, because the doctor told me that I have hearing loss. And I'm now at the point that it's either my physical health or my mental health. And in my mind, I'm saying to myself that Gaza is the place that ruined me, and Gaza is the place that's gonna cure me. I go back, and after a few weeks, I was sitting in my shift. My commander comes behind me and he touches my shoulder, and didn't know that he was behind me until he touched my shoulder. And that's where I knew, and that's where I knew that I can't continue. Not only I'm risking myself, but I'm risking my friends also. And a decision was made that I will get discharged, and that's what happened. And I went back home, and you know, the war doesn't stop when the war ends. I remember going home and putting all of the lights on in my room, and every night I would turn off one light at a time, and would wake up 3 or 4 times a night thinking that there's someone inside of the house. And it's truly not a great experience. You know, it didn't stop. It's still, I'm trying to take care of it, but it's hard. It's something that I never thought that I would happen to me. I'm supposed to be normal. I'm saying to myself, I'm supposed to be normal. I'm only 21 at the time. I'm supposed to be a normal kid. I'm supposed to have a future. And what's going through my mind that's it, that I'm messed up. I'm messed up.
I'm happy to share the rest of that story with you, but I thought that you'd just be interested to get a first-hand kid on the ground and his story. He's cutting it short. It's like he tried to recuperate in Israel, but the nightmares, the PTSD, kept going, and eventually his father, who I know quite well, who's a professor in Israel, said, we need to get you out of this place. So he's currently in Canada, recovering, studying. You know, fascinating when you hear the kid's story, like, you know, they go from 18 straight into the IDF, you know, for their years of service. He came out for a short period, and then was, you know, because of what happened on October the 7th, he's called back in, you know, has to volunteer to get back in, and then is exposed to the most, well, you can't imagine, I can't imagine what it would be like to have the bullets flying and see your friends falling beside you, and the nightmares that continued to happen for years afterwards. I think he's now 23. Oh, that was October last year when it was the celebration of the 12-month that I recorded that interview with Atan Drori and the global Israeli leaders with young Nohad. And as Stephen has said, look, it just would have been wonderful to have him on tonight to just honour him. And I'll try and get him back at some stage for our monthly meeting, so we can just say, wow, you know, like we're standing with him. And I think the end of that conversation, he was just amazed how, you know, Christians and Jewish, and he's a Druze by background and culture, they were all standing with him and supporting him. So it was just what I felt heart-rending story of a man on the ground, not a colonel, not a commander. We've had a few of those on, but just a kid that went through that experience. And right now, you know, as we look at the young people in the IDF throughout the country, the experiences that they may be having, with bombs falling around them, let alone the pilots and all the other people within the army and the IDF that are now, on call every day. It's just a point of we need to think about and pray for these kids, girls and boys, and the commanders and what is happening across the nation of Israel and through the nation of Israel into the Middle Eastern countries. So I'm going to invite the rabbi to come and just close off the meeting tonight in the way that he normally does. And thanks, Dionne. Thank you, everybody. It's just a wonderful thing that we can connect. If you're not a member of, I won't call it a member of SCAFI. If you're not on the mailing list, just contact us at Southern Cross Alliance for Israel at gmail.com. Stephen, you might put that up. And we invite you in a more formal sense, if you want to become a partner for the Israel Allies Foundation, Jew and Gentile standing together and helping our leaders, our influencers understand the truth. Over to you, Rabbi. Got to unmute, Rabbi.
I've been so moved by the stories that we've heard this evening. I think I'll best draw upon words greater than my own, and let me read Psalm of 100, a psalm of thanksgiving. Let all the earth sing in jubilation to the Lord. Serve the Lord with joy. Come before him with exaltation. Know that the Lord is God, and he has made us, and we are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with gratitude, his courtyards with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name, for the Lord God is good. His kindness is everlasting, and his faithfulness is for all generations. Israel Chai.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Please unmute. Say thank you to each one of you. Round of applause for Dionne and what she's doing, and our prayers for the young guys. Please unmute and just say goodnight to each other.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Shalom.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Good night.
Hello. Thank you.